Hello, hello. It's Monday night again. Oh, I hope everyone's had a good day. I don't know why, but it feels like it should be Tuesday or Wednesday already. And I got to work from home. Hi, Katie. Hello. Happy Monday night. Thanks for hopping on. I'm excited about this topic. Oh, hi, Cynthia. Bless your heart. I'm glad to see you on. I've been praying for you all and for your parents and for you guys. I hope everything turns around for you. Hey, Katie, I'm doing really well. Thank you. I really am. Hey, Jill. Saw Michelle hopped on too. Oh, hi, honey. He's actually sitting in the living room. Not too awkward, huh? Oh, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And this is not going to be, I am, Michelle. I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi. Hi, Carmela. Good to have you on. So this is a really interesting topic for me. So I hope it is for you. I'm not going to go through there. Actually, some sources have 99 or 100 names of God, and I'm not going to go through all those. I picked a few of the ones that are, hey Christy, that are generally more known or that had special meaning or application in my life, and you can draw from the definitions and from the little examples how one of these names might apply for you. I find that I go back and forth between using a lot of them. And then, as I usually do at the end, I'll provide you 2 links in the comments that have different lists of the names of God, of the characteristics of God as they're defined in the Old Testament by biblical scholars, and just some general information that might be helpful for you. Before we get too far into it, I'm Mary Moss. I live in Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Lily. I am in my dream life. I'm a writer and speaker. And in my day life, at my 9-to-5 job, I'm an administrator for a transportation project for the Department of Transportation here in Richmond. And I'm lucky in that I enjoy them both. Learned a lot from both of them. So, hey, Terry. So I'm going to just jump right into it. Like I said, there are a lot more names than just, I think I have 7 that I'm going to just share a little bit about with you tonight. But I hope that you'll also look at the links, because I really think that assigning these different names to God. Oh, hi, Rascal. Rascal's here wanting to see who I'm talking to. I think he thinks it's Lydia, our granddaughter, because we video chat with her at least once a week, and we always show her Rascal, because Rascal's actually the first word she said, and he likes to hear her voice. So I think he's waiting for us to turn the screen on him, so we're not going to do that. Anyway, when we assign these names to God, and it makes him so much more personal for us and so much more meaningful, I think. Rascal, go on, honey. And this is why I asked the question earlier today, do you talk like up close and personal with God? And a lot of times I think that we see him as this entity or this being that's so big and powerful that he doesn't have time for us, that maybe we're insignificant. There's, I don't know how many billions of people on the earth, not to mention all the animals and the stars and, the oceans and everything else that he created and cares for. By assigning some of these names, it helps us realize how important we are to him, and how valuable we are to him, and how he really longs to have a personal relationship with each of us. And this first one that I'm going to share with you is called Elohim, And it's really two words blended into one. El is a word that stands alone, but it's Elohim for this meaning. This is the God that I developed a very intimate relationship on my deck in the mornings, looking up at the sky, watching the stars. This is the God who, when I was at my darkest point, years after my mom died, I had not, really maintained an active relationship with him. I was pretty shut down. This is the God who, in my desperation, I would cry out and ask, do you even see me? Do you even care? Do you even know I'm here? And if you do, I really need you to send a shooting star across the sky. And almost without fail, on those mornings, there was at least one shooting star. Very clear, very slow, very bright, to make sure I saw it. So this is the most intimate relationship with the God Elohim that I had for a long time. And that really makes it, very personal and very powerful. It's the name that refers to his power and might. And I've got some notes because it's a lot and I don't want to, confuse them. He's the one and only God, the supreme and true God in a world that promotes many false gods and religions, according to this one scholar. He's the one that we can fully rely on because he's the one that worked all the wonders. He placed the stars in the sky and he carries us through difficult times. For me, it was through my grief, not just of my mom, my mom's death, but all the other things that I was grieving and kind of was burdened with and going through. So this is the one that holds us, that lets us know we never need to be afraid, that his hands are strong and secure, and we can rely on him to hold us and keep us safe and to reassure us that he's there. One of the scripture that kind of describes Elohim is Genesis 1:1, the first one in the Bible. This is the in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. That's God Elohim. And in Psalm 19:1, the heavens are telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of his hands. So those scripture kind of help define that name of God. Now, the next one that I'm going to talk about is Yahweh. And I know a lot of people have probably heard this name. It's one of the more common ones. And it literally just means the Lord. And it's derived from the Hebrew word for I am. That's in all caps, I am. And it's the proper name for God. And it's the one that revealed himself to Moses. He came to Moses in the burning bush and he said that you have to go to Pharaoh and lead my people out of Egypt into the promised land. And he was scared and he needed reassurance and he needed to know that God was bigger than this problem, knowing that he potentially could be killed if he went to Pharaoh, or at worst, no one would believe him. Maybe the people wouldn't even go with him. This Yahweh really is the God of but what if. But what if? It's the God that we ask for help, for support, for encouragement, for reassurance, for a promise that all of our but what ifs are not going to happen. Or if they do, he's going to take care of us and he's going to take care of the situation. He asked God, he said, suppose I go to the Israelites and say, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And that is what you are to say. I am has sent me to you. It's like he's the last word, the one authority, that holds the greatest power in all of creation, the one true God that we're to follow. I mean, what do you all think about this? Are you seeing how by using these qualities and characteristics applied with each name, that you could pray to a different idea of God based on what your need was at that point in your life? That just makes it so personal to me and so much more powerful, and it makes it more intimate, because it really is like just between us, and that this is a God who is addressing me right now where I am in my moment, in my time of need. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for hopping on. Abba is another word that probably a lot of us have heard. It's in a lot of songs. It means like daddy or father. It's a very intimate and loving form of God, form of the name of God. And it shows us his characters like as a loving daddy. I think of it as the way Jim thinks about Lydia, about our granddaughter. It's a God who dotes on us, who runs to us. This is the God who answers the frightened child, is what I think of. The frightened child who's awakened by a bad dream. He swoops in and comforts us and surrounds us with his love and grace and comforts us. He's that God. He calls, when we call out, he wants us to do that so that he can answer us. So it's really a way that he just kind of swoops down from heaven and enfolds us in his comfort. And the way a father would a frightened child. And I just think that's so, there are so many times I think that we need that when we're in distress, when we are so anxious about something and we don't see a way out, then we call out to Abba God, to our daddy God. And I think that's just so cool. And in Galatians, this is in the New Testament, chapter 4, verse 6, says, because we are his sons, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. So that's a God that it's natural for us to call out to. And he, like I said, he wants us to, because he wants us to call to be doted on and to be loved on. Elyon is another really powerful one for me. It means God Most High, and it's the name used throughout the Old Testament, revealing God is above all gods, like that nothing in life is more sacred, and that he is the Most High and reigns supreme. He's greater than any force of darkness in the world and bigger than any problem we might come up against in this life. So like in our daily struggles and battles, we just need to be reminded sometimes that God's still in control and that he never loses. Even if we feel like we're losing, he never loses. And so even when the world feels dark and we have dark days and, we seem a little bit hopeless, and for me, this wasn't a very intimate God for me. Again, when my mom died, and when others that I was close to in my life have died, he's conquered death and sin, and he's exalted over all. Psalm 7:17. And if you like, I'll just put the scripture verses in the comments. I'll put them all in one, and you can look them up and use them as a resource or a reference later on if you'd like to. Psalm 7:17 says, I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness. I will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. Oh, are any of these resonating for you all? Have I shared one that you think is especially significant for you tonight? One that you think you'll call on the God that you might call on for yourself. That might be too personal a question. But I'd like to know. You're welcome to message me if you would like to let me know. Then there's just a couple more. The next one is Elroy, the God who sees. And this one talks about his kindness and the care. And it points to his character. He's the God who chases after us. This is the God who never gave up on me when I turned my back on him for all those years after my mom died. He still chased after me and waited for me to come back to him. He never abandoned me. And so, how can you not love a God like that? He follows us around with his goodness. And he's the one who sees us when we're lonely, when we're all on our own, or when we just need a reminder that he's close. And the name Elroy says to us that God is watching over all and that he sees the affairs of the people and knows when we feel lost and unloved. He didn't leave Hagar alone in the desert. I don't know if you know the story, but Hagar was a slave woman who ran away from Sarah and Abraham. She had a child with Abraham, and Abraham's wife Sarah was very mean to her and beat her and sent her on her way because she was jealous. So she ran away to the desert with the baby, and she felt all alone and betrayed. But God came to her and reassured her that she wasn't alone and that he was there and that she needed to go back and that he was going to provide a way for her to be cared for and for her child to live and to thrive and to also be cared for. So she gave him the name Elroy, meaning you are the God who sees me. I have now seen the one who sees me. God was always knocking. Yes, he does. He always waits for us. And to me, we say that, we know that, and people tell us that. But to me, by giving that quality or that trait an actual name, it like I said, it makes it a more personal relationship for me. And, it's something that we can really explore and think about and journal about and pray about. What does that relationship with that God mean for me at the moment? El Shaddai is another one that people have probably heard a lot. It's one of the more common ones. There are a couple of songs. There's one really beautiful song called El Shaddai that I used to listen to all the time because it's just such a beautiful song. And it means God Almighty. And it reminds us that he's all-powerful and the mighty one, and that we can run to him. That we can find refuge and rest in his shadow. It's like the big mother hen who spreads out her wings to put them over her babies to protect them from the world. That's the El Shaddai God. And sometimes it can be hard to know who we can trust in the world, or we might feel uncertain in circumstances around us. And we want to know that this is a God that I prayed to a lot when my kids were young. Every morning before they would leave for school, I would pray the full armor of God over them so that they would be protected. And that's the God of El Shaddai, the one who covers up us and our loved ones with his protection. And so we don't have to worry like when they're away from us or when our loved ones are away from us, because God's there with them, keeping them safe. And, he's the God who sees all, who knows all, and has the power to go before us and to walk with us daily and to cover us from behind. So, it's like that. There's a term that I heard a few years ago that I'd not heard before, a hedge of protection. So it's like God is before us. He goes before us in our day. He's around us throughout the day and behind us to protect us from all sides, even when we can't see what we need protection from. And again, there's so much power in that, so much comfort. And, who wouldn't want to have a relationship with a God like that? And I think this is the last one that I wanted to talk about tonight. Because like I said, I saw one source that said there were like 99 names of God, and I was like, that's a lot of names. I think they're like 7, maybe 10 or 11 that are the most commonly accepted or the most commonly known and talked about. And I'm covering most of those tonight. And like I said, I'll give you the links after the live, to links where you can go and look these up for yourself. And I don't think either of the links that I saved to post are the ones I used. So it'll give you maybe a little different perspective on, how you might apply these names for your life, either for what you're going through now or, what you might need in the future. But I think it's helpful to remember that God has these different attributes and names, so that when we do come across a situation, we have that in our minds and we can call on it. Yahweh Misai means the Lord is my banner. And this one is, it's kind of not as widely understood, I guess, as the others. But again, it speaks to God's his leadership, his protection, and his deliverance. This is a God that would protect you from your enemies in a war. And specifically, when the Israelites were at war with the Amalekites, he protected them, and even though they kept being overrun and felt like they were going to lose, every time they were able to hold off the enemy with God's power, Moses stood up on top of a hill with God's staff in his hand, and he held it up. And as long as he held up that staff, proclaiming God's power, they, were beating the Amalekites. But when his arm got tired and he put the staff down, they began to overrun their army again. So some of the soldiers around him would take turns holding his arms up until they could finally be victorious in the battle. So, it just talks of God's power. Even if we don't have the power ourselves, those around us can support us, and God supports them in their support of us, which is really cool because it talks about teamwork and helping each other out. And for me, this is the God that reminds me, that we spin our wheels sometimes trying to get through the hard days or hard times or hard years of our own volition. It's like, oh, I'm gonna tough it out. I'm gonna charge through, and I can do this on my own. And we get so tired out and run down, and maybe we even get angry, and we end up just losing it, And we don't need to do that, because God is our banner. He's there to protect us. He's there to help us be victorious in the battles in our life. And he wants to lead us and give us that supernatural victory. So, if we can let him be in control, that he's going to do so much on our behalf that we don't have to get weary. We don't have to get weary. So God is our banner in the times when we feel like we don't have any strength left on our own. So anyway, those are just kind of an offbeat, a little bit different live that I wanted to do tonight. I got the idea from, something in passing about the names of God, and I remembered how fascinated I was. I spent months, years ago, researching all of these names and just really owning them and trying to just absorb them completely. And just I really was falling in love with God, and knowing that He allowed us to assign so many different names to Him made me love Him more and more. So I invite you to explore these names. I encourage you to remember when you're in a situation that is causing you, sadness or, whatever. If there's a time that you feel you need a little bit of supernatural help, it's available to you, and you just call out the name that you need at that moment, and He's going to answer. So I hope you enjoyed this little lesson tonight. Oh, good, Katie. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad. And I hope this was helpful. It's helped me in the past. And like I said, it allows me to have even a more intimate and loving relationship with God, and help me understand all the ways that He loves me and loves all of us. So that's all I've got for tonight. I'll post these 2 links, and you can study at your leisure. Feel free to leave comments if after you have some thoughts about this. If you do go look these up, come back and make comments. You can send me a message if it's something personal. I'd love to get your feedback on this and find out how you are applying some of these names in your own life. So, you all are so welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. Have a good Monday night. Have a good week, and I will talk to you next week.